Finding confidence intervals using the formula that we looked at earlier is not only cumbersome but often inaccurate because we don't really know the standard deviation of the entire population. So we're going to use the t-distribution to help us out. And what's handy is that our calculators can do that all for us. So let's look at a very simple example out of context first, just to practice punching in the numbers, and then we'll look at a more applied example. So we want to find the confidence interval here in this example, and we are given a mean of 2,178, a standard deviation of 120, and a sample size of n equals 34. We want to do this at 90% confidence. The way we do this is we go onto our TI-83s or 84s, and we go to Stat. We go over to the left to go to Tests, and we go down to t-interval, the 8th one down. So t-interval is the one we're looking for. And we're going to use, make sure our input is set to stats. We have the statistics right in front of us here. And those stats are 2178 for our mean, 120 for our standard deviation, and 34 for our sample size. And our confidence, we want to have 90% confidence, so we're going to do 0.9 as our sea level. And that's it. That's all the data we need to do. We just type that in and we go to calculate, and our calculator thinks for a moment and gives us the answer that we're looking for. So I'll drag that in here. To actually interpret this interval, what we're doing is we're making a prediction of mu, the population mean. So we're saying that mu is somewhere between here, this left bound, 2143.2, and here, this right bound, 2212.8. So somewhere between here, we think mu is going to fall. How confident are we of that? We are 90% confident that it's going to fall in that range. If we wanted to be more confident, that range would be bigger. If we wanted to be less confident, that range would get smaller. As far as creating a quick sentence that explains what that means, again, we are 90% confident that the population mean, the mean of the entire population, not just the sample, is between 2,143.2, 2,212.8. Let's look at a more applied example, and let's go into more in depth with the meaning then of that interval. A hungry researcher studied a random sampling of regular-sized cheeseburgers at Rochester fast food restaurants. The average weight of his sample was 12 cheeseburgers, weighed 314 grams with a standard deviation of 36 grams. Find and explain the 95% confidence interval of the mean. Well, let's figure out what data we have here. We have a sample of 12 cheeseburgers. We have an average weight of 314 grams, and we have a standard deviation of 36 grams. So as far as figuring out what data values we have to work with, x bar, our average, is going to be 314. Sx, our standard deviation, is going to be 36. And our sample size is going to be 12. And how confident do we want to be? We want to be 95% confident. So our sea level is going to be 0.95. So let's go to our calculator. Let's go back to our t-interval here. We go to stat, we go to test, and we go down to the 8th option. I'm just going to push 8 for t-interval. It's already set on stat from the last problem. And my average is going to be 314. My standard deviation is 36. And my sample size is 12. I want to predict with 95% confidence, so I do 0.95. And then I hit calculate. Once this calculates my answer here, I'll drag it over. And this is my interval again. So we go from 291.13 to 336.87. We're 95% confident that our actual mu, our actual population mean, is going to fall somewhere between here and here. So the way that we would write this in an applied scenario is we would first mention how confident we are. We're 95% confident. So right here. So nothing that's surprising here. Next thing we're going to look at is what we are trying to find. What population mean are we looking for? We're looking at the average weight of something. So we're looking at, in this case, it says the average weight of, and what is our population? Our population refers to cheeseburgers at fast food restaurants in Rochester. So we are 95% confident about the average weight, because we're finding mu, the average, of Rochester fast food cheeseburgers. We're looking at cheeseburgers at fast food restaurants in Rochester. So we're trying to find the average weight of something in this entire population that we've defined. And then we just use the interval to say it's between these values that we were looking for, between 2.91.13 grams and 336.87 grams. So reading it all together, you are 95% confident that the average weight of Rochester fast food cheeseburgers is between 291 and 336 grams, roughly. And that would be how you find the confidence interval in your calculator very quickly, and then how you interpret that by looking at your confidence level, what you're measuring, what your population is, and what your actual interval ends up being.